Hey everybody, welcome to Love and Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I'm here with my good friend, Tessa Boone. So blessed, so honored to have you here, the Global Mobility Manager, Vendor Manager, Tax. I mean, she does it all at Ford. How are you, Tessa?
I'm good, Ben. Thank you so much for having me.
It is so good to have you here. People ask me all the time. They ask me two questions. They ask me, what do you learn talking to all these people? And who are some people that you want to have on that you've never had on? And I got to tell you, Tessa, you are in my top 5 people I've always wanted to have on the show.
Perfect.
It warms my heart. Thank you
I
for being here today.
hope you check off your bucket list. Great.
You are. I can die now.
Stop.
Okay, we won't be too dramatic now. No, but Tessa, it's really wonderful having you here. Tessa and I served on the board of directors. I don't know if that's
Board of directors?
yes, board of directors at DRC together. That's when I
Yeah.
first met you. How's the DRC doing these days? Tessa, you want to give us a quick little update?
Yeah, really good. We had an event today, Ben, that was on remote work and work from anywhere. Had a great panel, had a great discussion. Trying to bring back some content, some educational content this year. Last year was so rough. We didn't, have much. We weren't able to gather. We didn't have much in the way of programming. We did have some fun social events, or tried, but we're trying to get back to some quality programming. And I think today was a good program. We have also planned in June. That's where you're going to join us, Ben. We are already promoting Summerfest, which is going to be on June 8th.
Summerfest. We didn't have festivals back when I was in DRC. When did DRC get so fun?
We're calling it Summerfest, and it's a fancy word for just a summer happy hour. And we're going to just have some community and some fun together. So looking forward to that.
This is awesome. Is this going to be an in-person or virtual or
It's
hybrid? What are we
virtual.
going with?
We're going to do virtual. We're going to have our Zoom virtual social time. So,
All right. So this is for anybody. So anybody anywhere can join this, or do you have to be a DRC member?
no, you don't have to be a DRRC member. Of course, we would like for our members to be able to participate. But yeah, we will certainly. It's open. We always advertise on LinkedIn, so anyone can join us.
Okay, awesome. So June Summerfest, check it out, everybody. Hey, I want to know who you are, where you are, what you're up to. Leave it in the comments. Also, if you've got questions or comments for Tessa, please keep those coming. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about a lot of things. Before we get started, I also want to promote the 8 weeks of giving. We are giving away not 1, but 2 bottles of wine. The 8 weeks of giving, I think we're on week 9 right now, by the way. So we're just giving away wine. We're going to give away wine until the money runs out. That's what we're going to do. It's sponsored by the good people at First Tech Federal Credit Union. They do expat finance. So when expats come over to this country and they can't get a credit card and they can't get a car loan and they can't get a home loan and they can't get a checking account, they help them out. So they're doing great work out there. So shout out to Brian Rivers and the good people at First Tech Federal Credit Union. If you haven't done so already, go to loveandrelo.com/community, register to win. We're going to be pulling 2 names off the wheel of destiny on Friday. So that's going to be awesome. So thank you everybody for that. We've got people checking in right now as well. Let's honor those people here and see what's going on. Hello, Tessa and Ben from wonderful Western New York. Awesome. Timmy, appreciate you backstage there. First Tech Federal Credit Union, my favorite bank, Alan says. Alan's in Germany where they have 0 branches, but that's cool anyway. Michael Quigley, hello, Ben and Tessa from Ace Relo, Silicon Valley. What's up, Mike Quigley? Good to see you. Mena from Dubai. I missed you so much. I missed you too, Mena. It's great to see you. Henri Dussoir, hello from France. Tessa and Ben from Bordeaux. Tessa, have you been to Bordeaux before?
I have not, no.
Why are we talking? Why aren't we going to Bordeaux right now? What are we?
I don't know. It sounds
We have to get our priorities in order, Tessa. Mike Falia, greetings from sunny Southern California. Looking forward to the show. Mike, I was thinking about you donating CCP. We were talking about covalent COVID plasma. So if anybody's had COVID-19, go donate your plasma. You can save lives out there. Shout out to Mike. Doing that all the time. Look forward to your next post, Mike. Thanks for bringing attention to that. Erica Burton, hey, Tessa, twice in one day.
Hey, Erica.
Isn't she great? Hit that like button right now. Leave your comments and questions here. Just down the road from the huge Ford factory in Cologne, Germany. I had a VIP tour of the factory a couple years ago. Great place. It's awesome. Rob Zines. Hey, Sandy McKinney's here.
Hey, Sandy.
Look at this. Isn't this fun? Tom Bruin, the DRRC program today was extremely insightful.
Thank you, Tom.
Awesome. Hey, our friend Brian Rivers. There's the guy right there. Speak of the devil. Hi, Tessa and Ben. Happy to be tuning in from windy Sacramento. Brian, I want to know what wine we're choosing this week. Let us know. Tracy Barbosa, very exciting. Brenda Thoney Johnson from Minneapolis. Mena wants to join. Mena, go to loveandrelo.com/community. Oh, you want to join the DRRC, the Dubai Regional Relocation Council? It's not. Did I say it wrong?
You said it wrong.
I always do that. Sorry, the Detroit Regional Relocation Council. If people want to join the DRRC, Tessa, how do they do it?
They're going to go to DetroitRRC.org, I think is the website.
Tim will research it. We got people for that.
Yeah.
Don't you worry about it. We got people. Tim, can you get us a link there?
She will certainly know this, and she can provide it.
Awesome. Speaking of which, here's my former fellow boardie as well, Joe Parteka checking in. Kristen Peterson, this is great. David Sharon, also a DRRC member. Valerie McKenzie. This is so much fun. This is great. Henri says we're opening a local chapter of Love and Relo in Bordeaux. It's official. Very nice. Very nice. I'll send you the remit for the royalty checks. Val McKenzie, hi, Ben and Tessa Deluxe checking in. Tessa, great session with DRC.
Valerie?
Give us like a quick little takeaway. So we were talking about work from home, work from anywhere, remote work. Give us some takeaways if you don't mind, because everybody's talking about it these days.
Yeah, so we had Jen Stein from our global tax network join. She was Dick Burke was our moderator. We had Anna Rossi from Felicia, who was one of our
coaches. Anna. Love Anna. Yeah.
We had Andrea Choinsky from Robert Bosch. And so Anna and Andrea, they were, sharing the corporate perspective of what they're doing within their organization. We talked about everything from, the different sorts of compliance things that you have to consider from immigration and tax, corporate tax, payroll tax. We talked about compensation, how that plays a part, about policy, if companies are looking at policy, if people are just dealing with, remote work right now, because we're still in my son calls it the pandy. So
the pandy?
Pandy. Yeah, so while we're in COVID land, basically, there's people working remotely. But what about after? What about when the office is back open again? And so we talked a little bit about that as well. It was.
What does that return to work look like, Tessa, in your opinion, or maybe in your experience? I mean, because it's such a big undertaking. I don't want to say shut down or slow down, but we've kind of taken this infrastructure apart in a way. How do we put the pieces back together again, and what does that finished puzzle look like?
Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to be the same again, and I don't. I think that if I just take a look at my example, so the mobility team at Ford, I don't think that we will be asked to go back into the office every day like we were before, or basically every day. We've shown that we can do a lot of that work, or do all of our work pretty successfully in a remote setting. So I think that we will have like a team day, maybe once a week or maybe once every other week, who knows? But I think that working dynamic I think it's been changed then, and I don't think that it will go back. I don't think we will, go back to the normal of what it was before.
So does all that office space, what happens to all that office space then?
Yeah, I mean, I can for Ford, the building that I'm in. I'm normally in the world headquarter building, and they have said that they're going to be reconfiguring a lot of that space in that building to include more we space and less me space. So there's fewer desks and more meeting rooms because you're collaborating when you're in the office. You're together with other people ultimately, which is why you're there. And so I think that, yeah, there's probably going to be the need, there's not going to be as great a need for everyone to have an office or their own space. We'll see.
I think it's interesting. I hope they make the bathrooms bigger because I feel like that's going to be the only place people can go to just get like 10 minutes, right? It's like I just need 10 minutes of people not looking at me. I need some Facebook time. I just need to chill out, right? I hope there's like 50 stalls then at least, right? Oh my gosh, that's great. Scary, but great. Cindy, hi there. What's up, Cindy? Michael Klug, what's up, Klug? That's great. Got some Detroiters here. Lisa Fontana checking in. Lisa, isn't that great? Love Lisa. Steve Simpson, hello from Jersey. What's up, Jersey? Heather Jameson from Global LT. Nice to see you again, Tessa. I've had a busy day. I like how you line this up. See, I didn't know that. You line this up intentionally, I feel like.
No. This was, I had to fit myself into your very busy schedule. So this just worked out like that. It's nice because I can, talk a little bit about our program from this morning, but yeah.
I love it. Men is saying this is dramatically impacting the company's culture. What do you think? I mean, we talked about the physical space, and the physical space does inform the work. What do you think the impact to culture is going to be with work from home, work from anywhere, remote work?
Yeah, I mean, I think, company culture, for example, at Ford is, collaboration is important. And so I think that with remote work, or people that, teams that are not necessarily in that same physical space, you might have to work a little bit harder for some of that collaboration. Although we have so many global teams, and we manage it, pretty well that way as well. We rarely get to sit around the table with our global partners, and still manage to successfully collaborate. So, it may not be quite as large of a mindset shift as we think ultimately.
What about this process? I mean, here we are. Gosh, I mean, it's basically a year.
Yeah.
It's like a year kind of on the nose, right, to when everything changed. What has surprised you about this last year? What do you look back and say, gosh, didn't see that coming? Like, what were some of the surprising maybe takeaways or ahas from the past 12 months that maybe were a little counterintuitive?
Yeah. So from a personal perspective, this was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I like people. I like to be with people. I like to have that water cooler conversation. I like to check in with my team. I like, reading body language and seeing more than often what I'm hearing. So I've missed that. So that was a little bit surprising. I mean, I thought that I would be okay, and it's been a little tougher than I thought. It's been tougher too for my son. I have a 17-year-old.
I was going to ask how the baseball career is going and everything.
Yes. Tryouts right now. Then they are doing tryouts for high school. So keeping fingers and toes crossed right now. Yeah. So I think especially my teenager, I think that it's tough. He's also a social animal, and being outside of school and away from friends, that's at that age, that's tough.
Yeah. I mean, side note here, I mean, just kind of to go personal just for a second. I mean, your son, he's trying out for baseball senior year, is it?
He's a
Junior. Okay. Mid pandy. He's trying out for junior baseball. How is the pandy going to affect these kids, this generation? I mean, do you think it's going to like leave an indelible mark on?
Sure, there are tons of psychologists and psychiatrists that will write dissertations on this. This is going to be studied forever. it's significant, I would imagine. It's
Yeah.
significant for this.
It's definitely going to be the thing that kind of marks that generation. I mean, I remember I pride myself on being a millennial. I say I try to work this into every show, just real quick to date myself. But I'm got right at the tail end. I'm so on the cusp. But I mean, for us, it was the mortgage crisis, and 9/11. Those were kind of the two events that really changed things, and it did. It affected the way that millennials thought about buying houses, that thought about the American dream and the pathway to wealth. It had always been buy a house, put 20% down, buy a house, and that was kind of your biggest asset. And so it's really, and that kind of turned everything upside down, literally and figuratively. So it'll be really interesting to see the way that this changes everything. But I want to move past this. I want to talk about you just a little bit. Okay, Tessa. We've got some great comments coming in here from Lisa. Love you too, Lisa. But Henri says, Tessa, I noticed on your profile that your professional experience is related to the car industry. Is it because you like it a lot, or was it a chance that you stayed in it? I want to actually predate Henri's question and ask the whole, how'd you get into the mobility business? Was this like your first gig, or did you do some other stuff?
No, not my first gig. So I was teaching at the university. So I grew up bilingually. I speak German fluently. So my parents came from Germany and they only spoke German at home. And I spent summers with my aunt and uncle in Germany. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. And so when I was finishing my master's degree, I was teaching German language. So basic German language and some conversational language. And so that's kind of, when I left school, that's how I was gainfully employed. It's how I paid the rent. Well, I did a little bartending on top of that, but most of the time it was.
Did you say you did a little bartending, Tessa?
I did, yeah. I'm a pretty good bartender, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
From back in the day.
Favorite cocktail, sidebar. Favorite cocktail, Tessa?
I like a Mai Tai.
Sidebar. How do you make a Mai Tai?
Oh gosh, you just throw.
You can lie to me. What goes in it? Some juices?
Yeah, kitchen sink. Everything.
All right, kitchen sink Mai Tai on Tessa Boone. All right. Anyway, flash forward. You're teaching German.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
And so I was teaching German at the University of South Carolina, and BMW decided to build a facility in South Carolina. Dein Deutsch ist nicht schlecht.
What was that? What was it?
Somebody just wrote on there, mein Deutsch ist sehr schlecht. Which means his German is very bad. And I'm sure it's not. I'm sure Henry's German is perfect.
You're so nice.
So I was working at BMW, and I met my husband there, and we decided to take advantage of an expat assignment. And we lived in Munich for a little while. And when we came back, they were looking for somebody in the mobility. Well, they called it international HR. And so that's how I came into mobility. I just basically had come back from Germany. I was looking for a job, right? They needed to repatriate me. They needed to reintegrate me at BMW. And that's how I started. And I was in that group, sort of, moving through that group, developing different sort of skills in that group for 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So at BMW, so you were at BMW, went on assignment, came back to BMW, and you're like, okay, now what do I do? And you're like, oh, there's this global mobility thing.
Yeah, that's how I got there. And then I came, I've been at Ford now for 7 years. So almost 7, it'll be 7 in June. So yeah, wow. That's how I came into, it was great. It's never the same. Every day is different.
So what do you think right now? I mean, as a practitioner with so much experience everywhere, doing different things within the global mobility function, what's your take on where we are as an industry right now, as a function?
So I think that we are we are ripe for disruption, I think. I think that there are models that we need to explore. And we need to be considering, how we can, working within certain parameters, working within compliance, but finding other ways of creatively meeting business need. That's, from my perspective, from a corporate perspective, but also, the services that come with that.
Can you delve into that just a bit deeper? I want to understand, like, what does that mean? Like, in what ways?
Yeah. So, I think that we are, we want to. I would very much like to see more opportunities for people to be, experiencing internationally. So this ties into, diversity, equity, inclusion, but it also ties into, I think of my 17-year-old son. He loves to travel. We love to travel, and he's traveled with us all through Europe and in the United States. And so when I think of him entering the job market, what is he looking for? What should we be thinking about for that generation, for that type of employee? What kind of experiences is he looking? What is he going to tell a future employer about what he's looking for, what he wants? Do we know what that is today? We should know. We should be thinking about that.
Well, does he know what he wants? I mean, that's the other.
He will tell you in a heartbeat.
What does he? So what does he want? What does Gen Z want?
He wants to be global. He wants to have opportunities. He wants to move and be fancy, footloose and fancy free.
Is he willing? Let me ask you this, and we might need to bring him on. Actually, I don't know if you can call him in here, but what I mean, let's play this through just a moment. Let's say your mobility. He's the high potential, and I'm the business, right? And I'm like, okay, that's cool. We got this high potential, footloose, fancy free, future leader of the company, and wants to be all over. But is he willing to forego salary and get paid, that localized wage in whatever country we send him on assignment? I mean, if he goes to Eastern Europe, and has this amazing experience, is he willing to get paid Eastern European wages, or is that, do we know that trade-off yet?
Well, I mean, ultimately, should he have to, right? So the question then becomes, how can organizations provide a truly global experience? How can there be a safeguard for certain benefits, for certain core benefits, if you will, that you have? An organization usually is providing some sort of, duty of care responsibilities, right? There's also benefits for pension. There's, long-term sorts of incentives, and maybe that's not going to be as important to him early days, but it will be important to him later. And so it's thinking about, what does that look like? What kind of ways can organizations provide these employees with that global experience, the network, the knowledge, the firsthand cultural immersion? I'm still a believer in needing to physically go. I do believe that for many types of assignments, especially for developmental, for growth opportunities, for future leaders, you really need to be there. You need to be with your team. You need to experience the location, the process, the people, the culture. And I know he would want that. And so what does that look like? It's also too, thinking about the population that I have today. We're not very diverse. We're not inclusive. And how can we be better about that? What is it that we can think about as far as policies, or even even beyond that, those conversations and the way that we're selecting candidates and how we're thinking about promoting and marketing those opportunities differently. There's so much more that can be done in this space.
What are some things in that area that you've seen done that you like, or what are some things in that area that you'd like to see? I mean, can we just get tactical maybe for a moment? Because I think a lot of times we say these things and we hope for change and progress in these areas, but I think sometimes we lack the tools or the modeling to actually achieve it. And so what are some of the things, maybe if we're practitioners or maybe policy writers out there or business leaders, that we can do to actually affect that kind of change in DE&I within our organization and mobility in general?
There's, I think, if we look at let me stay within the organization again. Those conversations
Sure.
that are happening, you know, I had a very senior leader at BMW once ask me, how do they fill these positions, these international, how do they find the candidates? And I said, it's basically, I got a guy, right? It's this sort of, I'm a leader and I have my favorites, or I've got a guy, or I know a guy, and I just tap him on the shoulder, and that's who goes. Is it truly, considering all the candidates that, and would this opportunity benefit some more than others? Should it just be, I got a guy? There
Right.
should be a bit more, and that's culturally within the organization. Some organizations do this much better than others. And I don't want to say every organization follows the I got a guy philosophy, but there should be more consideration within within your organization, within that business unit, within that, the leadership of that
Yeah.
organization, to say, yeah, I'm going to make sure that I'm considering all of the candidates, really looking to see who's going to best fit the role, the right person at the right time in the right role. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is, I had a really great conversation last week in regards to diversity, equity, inclusion type elements that could make the policy, it would be helpful. And they actually had allocated a certain amount of money. It was a budget. And if you raised your hand and said, I have this need, based on diversity and equity inclusion. So this is your single parent who needs something to help. You've got someone who's got aged parents that they have to, and they need help. Well, you raise your hand and you say, I've got this need. And ultimately the organization allocates funds. It's a real, on the one hand, you can't always meet every need in full, but it really goes a long way to showing that you have a commitment from the organization, that the organization is looking to support you. And I think that's big.
I think that's huge, and I think it's so. I remember as a young manager, we had a very HR heavy organization that was very much about being consistent and treating everybody the same. And as I've evolved as a leader and as a professional, I realized that equality is not necessarily treating everybody the same, but giving everybody what they need. And some people's needs are different. We talk about policies. Are policies really suited to the person? Or are they just like across the board, And so some people need more, some people need less. And that makes a lot of sense to me, what you're saying.
Yeah.
These are great. These are great thoughts. These are great comments. I'd love to hear the folks watching right now. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear your comments on how we do a better job with DE&I and candidate selection for these opportunities and assignments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you're seeing out there. Let's engage here. We've got some really rich stuff coming up. This is great. I'm just going to kind of take it from the top here. So forgive me. All of it's not super cerebral, but it will be, I promise. Bill Mulholland, Tessa is extremely personal. Glad I tuned in. Ben, please DM me. your hair product. It's on another level. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. You're so astute. Henri, Mike Quigley. Yep, true. Let's see here. Kristen, that's a great transition, having experienced an expat assignment yourself and then to work in this industry. I wonder how many global mobility professionals have that personal experience. Do you think it makes you a better global mobility professional, Tessa?
I do.
That experience?
I do.
Like a lot.
I'm biased. Of course, that's what I am. That's what I know, and that's what I understand. But I do. I think that it's, moving is hard. It doesn't matter where you move, like from one side of, Michigan to the other side of Michigan, or from,
Well, that state is very different
right?
on both sides of Michigan. I mean,
Right.
actually, you're right, though. I could say the same about Florida and Texas.
Yeah, I mean, moving is hard. And to have sort of some own feelings and empathy and understanding for that, I think is really helpful.
Yeah, there's so much nuance that you just don't get until you've done it. And that's true. And that's actually one of my things, my personal developmental things that I need to work on. Tom, look at this. We got some great comments coming in. Tom Byrne, in so many organizations, there is a divide between recruiting and staffing and global mobility. It doesn't make sense. Has Ford broken down these barriers through anything cross-disciplinary? Cross-disciplinarian?
Limited, Tom, I have to say. I mean, we do have some regions that do like an international new hire, right, where that recruiting function is tied to mobility, where they are looking for talent that is, found outside of the existing market or the existing region, and bringing that talent in. And what does that look like? But yeah, the recruiting and staffing is often not always, and it's a shame, really, I think, ultimately, because I do feel that mobility has services and products that would really greatly benefit talent, and how we are thinking about where we want that talent to be, how we want that talent to grow. Mobility, can absolutely enhance that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's easy to say, well, why don't you just go talk to them about it? And it's like some of these organizations are pretty big, pretty complex. There's a lot going on there. Does some of that collaboration get more difficult though? These are water cooler ideas. Wouldn't it be cool if, hey, Mary, wouldn't it be cool if, and does some of that organic, wouldn't it be cool if conversation get a little more difficult when it's like, got time for a Zoom about a pie in the sky idea? Doesn't it get a little harder?
I mean, I've had some really good water cooler conversations with talent colleagues, in terms of, we're thinking about this leadership development program, and what would it look like if it had an international rotation, or there would be some candidates that would be offered this international opportunity in this leadership program. That's a great, hey, let's think about how we can work together kind of conversation.
Yeah.
Those can happen.
Yeah. Those I feel like that's kind of like discretionary thought that kind of falls under discretionary effort, that kind of falls within discretionary time. And it's kind of nice to have that kind of soft time in your schedule where you can just kind of think about stuff. Elizabeth Soley, loved hearing your story. Shout out to Elizabeth there. Rob Zayat, some people find their jobs and careers. Global mobility finds you. I think that might be giving us a bit of credit, but okay, yeah, I'll take it, right? Let's see here. Elizabeth has a question. How do you try to mitigate risk within your relocation program?
Wow, there's a lot of work in that one question. We mitigate risk in many ways. We have, we work very closely with many vendors, and so we have to ensure that our vendors are acting as we would, right, as an extension of our team, and so we are controlling. That helps us to mitigate risk. We are, setting up different processes that will ensure that we're capturing all of the folks that need tax assistance, capturing all of the folks that need immigration assistance, making sure that we're clear about our position with doing the right thing, wanting to always be in a compliant position. You don't want, it is inherent within Ford's culture to do the right thing, but you also don't want that publicity. Certainly don't want Ford's name splashed across some headline.
Right.
Do something like that. So we do a lot of risk mitigation, I can say.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like it's got to be a lot of pressure. I mean, with such a visible company that means so much to the region, has such a rich history, and so much to the country even, right? It's like, it feels like a big mantle to bear, making sure that you don't do something or put the company in a situation, right, where, oh goodness, why, what a downer. Anyway, moving on. Oh, Vinny, hey, Vinny's the perfect person to put a smile on our face here. All right, shout out to Vinny. Let's see, besides traveling internationally, what's the biggest challenge in managing global assignments since the COVID-19 pandemic rules our daily life? Biggest challenge in the pandy for Glomo. What's going on?
Good. I feel like this challenge is figuring out where my people are.
Isn't that crazy? I feel like that, and I feel like that's also the thing that like you probably feel the worst about, like when you're asked, like, so where is everybody? You're like, let me get back to you.
Yeah. It's not been really our culture to kind of track, but we've never had to really. And now, for tax purposes, but it's also for duty of care and, from a security perspective, we've also made some adjustments to benefits as a result of people, basically going home and being at home for the last year. Certain benefits that we are providing for people to be in a particular location, if they're not in that location, they just don't need those benefits. And so there's been some of that, conversation. And so figuring out where people are has been a bit of a challenge. And of course, then what do you do with that information, right? Acting on that and collaborating with the different, with our tax services provider, with the Office of Tax Counsel, trying to figure out the best way of managing some of that tax risk and payroll reporting risk that we didn't have before.
So what's the best answer you've heard on that? Like, how do you keep track of everybody? Because this is, a common theme. If we're honest with ourselves, we don't really know. We only know what people tell us, and sometimes we don't want to know. So we don't, So it's like, so what is the best that what's the best idea?
What I really like is I've had conversations, and certain organizations say we just have a culture that we just expect that the employee will tell us, right? We have Workday, and so they have access to update their records. They just do that. We just tell them you need to do that, and they do that. And I thought, that's great.
That's nice.
Yeah, but they have this culture. It's expected, and it's done. And
how do they create that culture though? Is it removing? I'm sorry, but how do they create that culture? Is it removing the penalties? Is it taking away that you're not allowed to?
Sure, yeah. It could be something that the very top of the house feels strongly about, and that's how it's communicated. I'm not sure, but yeah, they do, and I think you have a great HRIS. You have your people go in there and make the requisite updates, and perfect, right?
Yeah. A little too perfect. A little too perfect. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Well, or maybe you're just being more honest. We ask people to self-report, and they do. It's like, oh, wonderful. Isn't that nice? There's no way to validate whether or not they're, yeah, okay, lovely. Well, it works as long as it works, right? Let's see here. We've got some cool comments here. Theodora saying, in my opinion, one of the most neglected aspects of global mobility is candidate selection and candidate assessment. I completely agree with you. That's, yeah. What can we do? Let's blue sky here. Somebody comes to you and says, Tessa, we agree with you. We want to improve the DE&I of our candidate selection process because we believe it informs our talent strategy, who our high pos are, eventual leaders of our company. And if we're going to kind of dismantle white supremacy and the patriarchy. We need to address some of these issues, right? How do we do this in a perfect world?
Wow. There's a lot there, Ben. I would say, I could imagine that you would want to have, you would want to collaborate with your, for Ford, within Ford, a lot of the personnel discussions, a lot of that talent, a lot of that succession planning. This is together, the business together with the HR, with those HR business partners. And I think the HR business partners have to help here. There has to be, they know who their teams are. They are identifying those candidates. They're helping to find those opportunities, to also to market and to sell. It's about, talking up these kinds of, we really feel like this is going to help you in your career. And of course, then the organization has to mean it, right? So if we're saying to this candidate, we really feel like this opportunity would be great for you, we're going to help you be able to realize this opportunity. And when you are returning, this is potentially going to really impact your career. That's a different sort of messaging than a supervisor tapping somebody on the shoulder and saying, you're my guy and I need you, over there and that kind of thing. So I do think that it's a different messaging that needs to happen. Of course, you have to have some support. You have to, like I said, you have to support those candidates if there are different things that they're looking for and needing. And then you do have to mean it, that you're going to consider them for advancement and that the assignment and the knowledge and the experience that they're gaining is actually going to help them in their long-term career.
I like it. So publicizing it, some flexibility around it. Marilee says, you're right, Tessa, a lot of companies pick people for assignments based on, I got a guy, there's an urgency or need. I believe the companies that do ROI well do pre-assignment determination with talent planning and setting measures up front, monitoring during the assignment, and not just evaluating post-assignment. Yeah, seriously. I mean, if we want to move from tactical to strategic, from reactive to proactive, seat at the table, all this kind of stuff, we need to go upstream and we need to be advising the business. It would seem easy for me to say, right? But it would seem, to get more involved up front. Kristen Peterson, I'd love to see a global assignment assessment utilized for leadership, director, manager levels while being considered for a global assignment. Yeah.
Yes. And some organizations do. Some organizations do are really good. They use assessments and they use them well. There are good assessments too out there.
This is so interesting. We got a lot of traction on this in the comments here. So I'm just going to stay here for a moment, if that's all right. Vinny Valverde, in my opinion, I love all the acronyms we use nowadays, right? In my opinion, the DE&I should not be forced into the mobility program only. It should be part of the company's overall priorities, and all leaders should be driving this very important topic consistently on everything they do, including when selecting the employees going on assignments.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, and I mean, and to Ford's credit, I mean, Ford is, and Tessa, I don't know if you know this, but Ford is actually a member of the $1 Billion Roundtable, which is a commitment by companies to spend $1 billion per year in diverse, with diverse vendors, right? With buying from diverse, woman-owned, black-owned, minority-owned companies. So I do have to give Ford a lot of credit on that front for being a part of that.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Mary Lee says, companies have always focused on the importance of physical safety, but now with work from home, remote work, companies are having to think about and address psychological safeness. How do you think Ford will address this new type of safety concern in its culture? Wow. Questions are heavy today, Tessa. Man, you thought you were going to get some softballs about the Summerfest.
No,
you didn't realize.
Grapefruit's kind of loud my way, but I do think that there is certainly within my organization an emphasis on well-being, on the well-being of the employee. in all forms. There has always been, but it's even now more pronounced. And making sure that we do have making time for that. You always hear that work-life balance. Well, I'm not a believer in that. You have to make that happen. You have to prioritize that. That's not something that is going to come just because. And so there is discussion within Ford to say, do this for yourself. Take care of yourself. Your well-being is important. And I think that is also needs to be promoted within the culture. It has to be something that comes from the company.
Well, and it's a big DE&I thing as well, because this kind of goes back. There was a push, and it's still a push to some degree, about being able to bring your whole self to work, right? And feeling comfortable and safe, right? And whether it's due to your skin color, whether it's due to your religion, whether it's due to your sexual orientation, whatever, feeling comfortable. And it's one of those things. I mean, you can't even kind of quantify it, right? It's very qualitative and it's very subjective, and it just comes through having hard conversations with people about how they feel in the four walls. So good luck figuring that out. Glad I'm just a talk show host. Lisa Johnson, hi Tessa, great to see you today. Is your team involved in creating an international remote work policy? And is it temporary for the pandy, or will it become permanent?
I think you've taken on my son's.
I love it. No, that's going to be from here on out, Tessa. He's changed LOVE+RELO for at least the next 6 months.
Yeah. There is, Lisa, we are working with various, there's a whole, group of people together, various stakeholders. They're looking first at a remote work policy that's going to be managed, or that's going to be targeted to within country. So not necessarily the international. That's kind of going to be phase 2 ultimately. Right now, the conversation is much more about in market, right? It's not just US, it's other countries, but it's within market. And how can that be managed? There is a policy. It is now being looked at again. There's a lot more conversation, and how can the compliance elements and things like that be managed for that in-country sort of remote work position for the company. I do think, though, that we will have some considerations for international. We have to have, I think, some further conversations internally in regards to is this something that the company wants to offer, right? Do we want to say, come work for Ford? You can work from anywhere, right?
It does sound kind of magical, like mystical. You can work from anywhere.
Do we want to say that, right?
Is that what Gen Z wants? Is that what your son wants? I mean, is that the kind of arrangement?
I'm sure, yeah. But, I mean, he's not going to be working anytime soon.
I like how you say yes, but you're shaking your head no. That's like a typical mom move, right? It's like, I'm sure he does. I'm
sure he does. No, but, there's a lot of talent that Ford is competing for, and it could be competing with organizations that would be looking at that would say, yes, you can work from the Bahamas. Yes, you can work from wherever, right? And, is this something that we as an organization want to do? Do we want to invest? Do we want to, say, yes, this is something that we, as part of our employee value proposition, yes, we want this. Well, then we have to pursue that, and we have to make that investment, and we have to be willing to do those things. And so that's kind of that conversation right now.
Cool. Awesome. Pandy, the new normal has turned us into the new crazy. Well, Henri, in fairness, yeah, it's like a US thing. You wouldn't understand. It's okay. I'm here with Tessa Boone, Ford Motor Company, Global Mobility Manager, and my friend. It's so good to see you here. We've got a few other questions here, but I've got a question. Okay. Because I've had the pleasure of hanging out in the real world with you. Most of the people that come on here, I don't actually know in real life. I actually know you in real life, so it's really cool. But you know, there's like these moments at like DRC. I remember we were at, I don't know, it was like a rooftop thing, and that was kind of, I feel like, the time I like got to hang out with you, and like I feel like I really connected with you and got to know who you were as a person. And it was just it was a lovely summer evening. And you know, is there a new way to do benchmarking? Is there a new way to do networking, or maybe not a new way, because probably the wrong way to say it, but from a way that we share ideas, you know, we're doing it on the show to some degree as well. But when we get back in person, I know we do a lot of like corporate roundtables where we get everybody in a room and we're very serious, and maybe there's scones, maybe there's not. But I mean, could we do this in a little more of a fun way? You know, your thoughts on that? What's the ideal way to do benchmarking?
Good. I'm constantly doing benchmarking. Ben, I've I do my informal benchmarking over a glass of red wine at a conference.
Yeah.
I'm always looking to pick somebody's brain about the one or the other thing that they might be doing that we're not, or they're doing better than we are. So I'm happy to do that. I'm very fortunate to have a great network. I talk with a lot of people, and I have, also over the years sort of developed my own group I send out, I've got a distribution list of some, corporate folks that we kind of help each other. So I send out a message and say, hey, what are you doing around this? And I'm going to get 3, 4, 5, 6 right away responses back. But I'm also responding pretty regularly and quickly for them. So it's, we kind of help each other. And that's also a good way, to have sort of a circle of people that you're always bouncing ideas off of. It's very helpful.
I love it. Vinny actually just busted the myth here. We're never serious on corporate roundtables. Good to know, Vinny. Good to know. Rob's got a light, easy question in reference to acronyms. I'm guessing they don't refer to global mobility as GM at Ford, do they?
No, they don't. We can't even use the word mobility at Ford because mobility means something different at Ford. So there's a whole department, a whole business unit on mobility and mobility services at Ford. So we don't have that. So we have a really very old-fashioned term. They call it international service. So our department is called international service.
Well, that's not confusing. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. It's not like you sell cars internationally or anything. No.
Yeah.
Brittany, how do you approach your intern program to help with your conversion and retention for future talent? Tell me about this intern program, because I've heard things about the intern program, and I'd love to know more about it.
So I'm not the expert on the intern program.
And that's our show, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm being completely honest with you, Ben. It's we have, intern programs are market specific. So in the U.S., they've got the recruiting, our U.S. recruiting team, talent acquisition team, whatever we're called, right? They are absolutely recruiting and managing this program and all of the different benefits that come with it and how this is feeding the talent pipeline at Ford and all that kind of stuff. So, and we don't do sort of international recruitment for international interns. We did at BMW. When I was at BMW, we always had international interns coming into the different facilities, and often the interns would come from Germany or from England or from South Africa, and they would come into the United States. But that's not something that Ford is doing.
Interesting. All right, cool. Well, Mena has a question. Localization versus global mobility. Care to comment about it?
Yeah. We do a lot of localization. it's a tool in the toolbox, and it works under certain circumstances, and it doesn't under other circumstances. So, generally you see localization where the future career path for that person is in a given location, and that's where you would localize them. But it doesn't. There are some organizations that don't do expats at all. They don't do temporary assignments. They only do one-way moves. They just move you, and that's where you are. And you are there now, and you're going to work there until you're not going to work there anymore, and then they're going to move you again.
We'll talk about that later.
It's a permanent, it's like a permanent one-way move.
Oh my gosh, it's got to be a tough sell though. It's like, not only are we sending you over there, we have no intention of bringing you back.
I think it would be tough, So yes, we do localization, or even permanent international transfers.
All right, let's see here. We got a couple more questions, and I've actually got a question that I'm just dying to ask. Elizabeth Soley from Jacob Street Partners. We love ensuring your intern program. Very good. Go keep those kids out of trouble, Elizabeth. Kristen Peterson, mobility is used differently at Bridgestone too. I may be titleless soon. Oh, the plight of the automotive mobility manager. I got a question, Tessa. You recently went through a big RFP process, and I would love to know what you learned by that, and just some of your reflections on that process and thoughts on outsourcing and just the process in general, if you would.
Yes, we did go through. So we are Ford has program administration completely outsourced for our program. And that includes our international as well as our US, Canada domestic. And now we have integrated also our UK domestic into the work that we are doing within our team. And so we took our time, which I think is important. So that first lesson learned, you don't need to rush it. Really plan ahead, allow yourself some time. And we did.
How long did that process take you?
So we prepared our strategy as well as the scope of work and all of the different materials that we wanted to submit. That took us about 6 months. We put out the information and received, information, the proposals back. Reviewed those proposals. Basically, it took us a year from putting it out to making a decision, and so 18 months total to get ourselves to a decision. Yeah. So again, if you have the time, take it, plan for it. We did really good work way up front in terms of a commodity strategy, which I would also really recommend. What is it that your organization wants to buy? Because it is a purchase, it's a commodity, it's a spend for your organization. What is it that you are looking to buy?
That's a great point, because we see some of these RFPs out here sent to moving companies that want relocation management services, for instance, and that's a good, know what you're actually asking for. That's a great.
And how do you want that? Do you from a strategy perspective, what is the model, right? So you can, do you want to have 5, 6, 7 vendors at the same time doing a little slice of something where you have the strings? That's a model. Do you want to have all your eggs in one basket, right? You've got someone that is managing completely, but then you put your trust in them and they're the ones holding all the strings. That's a model, so, and there's definitely advantages and disadvantages either which way you go. But you really have to know what you want, right? What is it that you want to go out for? So that was the first.
How do you make that decision? What kind of thought process goes into? like, how does a company know which way they want to go with the slices versus the eggs in the basket model?
Well, I think that a lot of it has to do with the way that you're resourced. Ultimately, if you are resourced in such a way that the eggs in the basket is going to work best for you, then that's probably what you should be looking at, and make sure that that is, how you intend to go forward, and then make that commitment, and everybody's on board and all the stakeholders understand that. But if you're resourced in such a way, or your company culture is such that you really want to, have, there are companies that have 2 or 3 different relocation management companies that they give some of the business to some and some of the business to the other, and they kind of, I don't know, have them competing. That's another model, and it works for some companies. In others, it requires a heavy administration. It requires work on the global mobility team. So I think resources is going to plays a big part in that.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. And I kind of wish I had more time to stay on this topic, because I think it's a fascinating topic that's really at the heart of our industry and how we manage relocation and global mobility. But I've taken so much of your time, Tessa. This has been so much fun talking to you today. I've really enjoyed it, and I can't thank you enough for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thank you everybody that tuned in, and we had so many comments. This is wonderful. Thanks to everybody that was here and that was present and that was active in the comments. The show's always so much better when you are active in the comments and leave us great questions to ask. So I thank you so much. The show's really for you out there watching, so thank you for all of that. And tomorrow is going to be a fun one. Tomorrow we're actually doing a surprise guest announcement. I don't even know who it is. We're announcing the new CEO of ARC Relocation here on the show. I have no questions prepared. I have no idea who this person's going to be. I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. It's like the Masked Singer for relocation without the singing and the mask. But you get the point. It's a surprise. So anyway, tune in for that. Same time tomorrow. But Tessa, thank you so much again for being here today with us. Do you want to leave us just with a final thought? I want to give you the opportunity just to kind of give us a final thought.
Oh, for heaven's sakes, Ben.
I know, right when you thought you were off the hook, Tessa. I know. I messed that up, Tessa. I apologize.
No, thank you very much for having me, and this was great fun. I did recommend some other folks that to you too. Sandy, I think you should do this. Sandy McKinney,
if you're watching right now, I'm coming for you.
She'd be great.
Tessa signed you up.
Yeah. So yeah, I think what you're doing, Ben, is with this show and your contributions to the industry is fantastic. And this keeps us very well educated and informed, but it also keeps us connected and a way of being the community that we are, because we're a pretty small community. And so this is a great thing you're doing.
Thank you, Tessa. That means a lot coming from you. I respect you so much, and I've known you for a while now, and this is really nice to have you here. So thank you for the kind words. Thank you for being here. Thanks to everybody that tuned in today. I appreciate y'all so much. Don't forget to register your name for the 8 weeks of giving away free wine on Friday. Can't wait, and I'll see y'all tomorrow, same time.